It was very quiet the night of August 9th, 1969 in the Hollywood Hills. So quiet that you could hear ice in the cocktail shakers of the rich and famous, one of the killers would later say. Four young people made their way up a hill bearing knives and a gun. Their destination was the home of actress Sharon Tate and her husband, film director Roman Polanski. They had been ordered by their leader Charles Manson to kill everyone in the home, and kill everyone they did, with some of the bodies having 20 to 30 stab wounds each. The following night, these four people plus two additionals, with the addition of Charles Manson himself, went to the home of Leo and Rosemary LaBianca. After Manson tied them up, he ordered his followers to go in there and to kill them. And to kill them, they did also, having shot and stabbed them many times. On the front door of Sharon Tate's house, they left the word pig written in her blood. And on the refrigerator of the LaBiancas, they had the words Helter Skelter. Helter Skelter was a term used by Charles Manson to describe his plan for a war between the blacks and the whites. He wanted to start a war between the blacks and the whites, and he said that the blacks would win the war. However, after winning the war, Blackie, as he called them, would not be able to handle, ruling the world, so to speak. So then Manson and his followers, they would take over and they would be in command. I know this sounds ridiculous, but this actually was his plan, and most of his followers believed that this could actually take place. And they also believed many of them believed he was Jesus Christ. Now, for any of you who are not familiar with Manson, Charles Manson was an ex-con who at this point had been in prison for like half of his life. And when he was released, he made his way out to California, and he hung out in the Haight-Ashbury district. And this was the time of the hippie phenomenon, so there were a lot of people that went out to California. And he soon attracted a following of mostly young women, and through a series of telling him smooth talk, telling him what they wanted to hear, and this kind of thing, and also giving him drugs, he got these people to believe in him, believe what he had to say, and pretty much do anything he wanted them to do, including murder. This is a review of the film Helter Skelter, which is based on the book by Vincent Bugliosi, who is a prosecutor in the case. I'm actually going to review two films because there are two versions of this film. The first was made in 1976, and it was a made-for-TV movie. And this pretty much goes into the goes into the police investigation of this case. The cops had a really hard time with this case because they didn't have DNA evidence back then. They didn't have a lot to go on. Especially they didn't have a lot to go on to convict Manson himself, because he actually physically did not do the killings. Although he was at the LaBianca site, he did actually tie the LaBiancas up. He left and let his followers do the killing. So they wanted to make sure that they could convict him along with his followers. They thought this was the only way that it would be a successful prosecution. So this goes into the investigation, some of the things they turned up, and the big break in the case, which came when one of the people from the Tate murder site confessed to someone in jail that she was actually involved in this murder. And this was kind of like the break in the case. So if you like police investigation type things, if you watch shows like CSI or something like that, I think you'll enjoy this version of the movie because it pretty much shows you how they put the case together. It actually shows the trial and some of the antics that Manson and his followers tried to pull off during the trial. Manson is played in this version by Steve Railsback, who's he's a pretty good guy at playing weirdos. He's also portrayed Ed Gein in a movie. However, I think he comes off here as more of a clown. He doesn't really scare me, or doesn't really, have a sense of menace to him in his portrayal of Manson. So I'm sort of on the fence of his portrayal of Manson. But overall, I liked the film. I thought it was a good explanation of how the trial was, how the trial and investigation was done, and ultimately the conviction. The second version of the film was made in 2006, and this more concentrates on Manson and his family members themselves. They pretty much show kind of what went on out at the Spawn Ranch where these guys hung out. And it also concentrates on a young lady named Linda Kasabian, who was a young girl that started hanging out at the ranch. And she was actually present at both murder sites. However, she did not participate in the killing. And she later becomes the star witness for the prosecution, and probably the reason why they got a conviction on Manson because of her. The second version of the movie also details Manson's relationship with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. Manson thought that he could be a rock star, and he thought by associating with Dennis Wilson and a guy named Terry Melcher, who was Doris Day's son and a record producer, he thought that these guys would, get an album. He could get an album recorded, and he could be a rock star and so forth. And when this didn't pan out, I think he kind of concentrated more on his Helter Skelter plan, and then he started it out by going to a home that he knew, which was now Sharon Tate's home, but it was, I believe it was formerly Terry Melcher's home, and he knew that there were famous people, rich and famous people living there. However, I don't know that he knew who Sharon Tate was. There's insinuation that he did actually see her at one point, but he picked this home to start his Helter Skelter and told his followers to go there and kill everybody. The second version of the film shows the murders in much more detail than the first version. It pretty much shows everything that happened at the murder scenes. It's not as gory and bloody as a slasher film, but it does have some amount of blood in it, and you really get a feel for the type of violence that was done to these people. So I think the portrayal of the murders was done quite well. I don't remember the guy who plays Manson in the second version, but he seemed to be a lot more credible Manson than Railsback. He really seemed like a scary guy, like a guy you didn't want to fuck with. So I do give this guy credit. He did do a very good portrayal of Manson. And the other actors who portray the other people, I think they did a very good job too. The girl that portrays Susan Atkins, I think she does a very good job. And overall, I thought the second version was a very good movie also. As to which version was better, I prefer the second version. However, the first version, the 76 version, is also very good. It also gets my recommendation. So if you want to find out what Charles Manson and his family were all about, what Helter Skelter was, and the type of crimes that they committed, I recommend that you check out these movies. As always, comment, rate, and subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And thanks for watching my video.